Okay, so this was made really late. I might have found a better picture of Ben Stiller to do the comparison, but I appreciate that some people are getting some enjoyment out of this. I didn't dub it the Ben Stiller, Joseph Smith. I just saw that on social media a lot and just was like, wow. And then I just looked at Ben Stiller. I'm like, oh my goodness. He really does look a lot like him. And I think the one thing is just how it's so thin. The eyebrow hairs sort of follow along there, but where the brow bone is, like on the top of the brow bone, it's so thin. Like the eyebrows really thin out, and they're just so low. They're not straight. They're not really thick. These are very thin eyebrows. So he definitely has that. He has, the fur on the brow near his left brow. I'm serious, you guys. So does he. He has the furrow in the brow in the exact same spot. But the shape of the eyes, pretty small eyes. I think that's one thing people are really focused on. And definitely, I think just like this distance and this shape, it really, to me, it's almost more the 3D shape. And then how this kind of comes out like that. The placement of the marionette lines. A lot of people have marionette lines, just like a lot of people have furrows in their eyebrow, as he does, in the exact same spot. But the shape right here, between his nose and his upper lip, it's just really got the same shape like that. Okay, you see how it's just comes out a little bit right there. It's coming forward. But something that's very, very different. And I'll say the other thing is just a very receding chin, which is different between the neck that you do see in the profiles. People call the receding chin the neck. It's the neck chin, not that they get things discombobulated. Because Joseph had a much more pronounced chin than this. You see how it's a little bit of lightness right there, and then it's just dark. Like this is just flattened and receding. You don't see that on the death mask. I don't. It's pretty. It's round, and even on the painting, you can see that it's round. It's really round like that. It's not like it would be cutting down like that, but it's not. It's pretty round. So. And then the nose, it really, you can see where the nose is really starting to come out, getting larger, is right about there. But whose nose I think this guy's nose, it looks a lot smaller than Ben Stiller's. You can just even tell from the front that Ben Stiller has a bigger nose. But who the Locket Photos nose, you just see this shape right here. You see how it's light right there? And then where the nose starts to come out, you start to see a shading difference. So for one, where your nose starts to come out, especially back then, like your sun is hitting it more. And just the shadows change. So like for example with Ben Stiller, you're just seeing there's a shading there because his nose is hitting more of the sun. But you're seeing right there where his upper eyelid is, that's about where his nose actually starts coming out. But his is really flat, just uniform shading going all the way down, and it's right the bottom of his eye. His bottom lash line is about where the shadow starts. So that's where his nose is starting to come outward. And so whose nose, I think, I'm going to show more that comparison of who he looks more like. It looks a lot, I just keep thinking of like Chris Potter, I guess, because I'm watching Heartland on and off. He's crinkling it up really quite a bit, but it sort of seems to kind of be, I mean, people usually have a furrow in their eyebrow. It's a common thing, and when you look this way, and I think the reason often will look like it's on one side is because of lighting. Okay, so if lighting's hitting there, there's a furrow there, but the light's hitting that, so it's blurred out. But then it's hitting that furrow, so then there's a shadow. So if there's more light coming from over here, it's coming down, but then there's going to be a shadow. Kind of like when light's coming this way, light's coming that way, more shadow there. More shadow from anything that's sticking out from where the side light, there's side lighting there, right? Okay, I'll stop. He has furrows, probably uniform furrows. So if he had just like super bad lighting, we would probably see every wrinkle on his face, and you'd see it's a normal person, someone squinting in the sun, and they furrow and they have 2 furrows, right? Okay. That is explained. His nose isn't very big though. He just really does not have a very big nose. This is kind of blurry. We can go look at other pictures, but just watch the show. He doesn't have a very big nose. But you can see how it's sort of flatter like that. We can look at other photos of him. You can see he's sort of furrowing the brow. We'll see if there's any better. Most of his are actually on set. I guess he didn't really care to do a ton of modeling. But we'll try to find one where he's just better lighting, looking straight forward. See, this is okay, but yeah, you see how it was, the furrow on the brow was there, but now it's there. Because this is bad lighting, right? But where his nose starts to come out and just the size of it, it's a much smaller nose. That's an interesting picture. Okay. Yeah, there just aren't too many that are great to compare from here. Maybe that, I don't know. But it's just a really flat space right there. Yeah, you can see right there, see how the shading really starts to change right there. It's more with his lower eye. That's a pretty good one. You can see light, but where the light is really hitting and he's getting more of a tan and his nose is really starting to come out, it's more right there because his nose is more coming out right there. Okay. But Ben Stiller's nose, they look similar, except Ben Stiller's nose is bigger than his. It's much bigger, but since he's an actor, we can find a picture of him from a profile, right? So let's look at a profile of Ben Stiller. And you can see that where his nose really starts to protrude is right up there. But even then, Ben Stiller's nose is not as big as Joseph Smith's. Not to sound mean, but it is smaller. So, okay. So where his starts to protrude, then it just drops down. So it's really not, it's kind of coming out, but then just not. Whereas Joseph Smith's, it's sort of coming out and just keeps, it's a pretty big nose. It's got pretty large nostrils. Because it's coming out this way. But his nose, it's protruding out really high up. About where that top line is, and that's about the same with Ben Stiller. It's right up that top line. So, and you can see eyebrow hairs coming out all around. And just go to theprofitscars.com and look at all the artwork on there. Someone was upset about an alleged picture from the daguerreotype. I can try looking that up. I appreciate that comment. But for some reason, ironically, that was not a part of the Saints Herald that they Community Christ donated. I hadn't really searched that heavily. If they had not done that, I wouldn't have realized that they just didn't send everything. They just skipped a bunch of years, specifically 1910 of the Saints Herald. In that month, it just wasn't on the church's version, and I couldn't find an archives version. So, but yeah, you can kind of see here just like how the sun is hitting. It's a lighter color, and then it gets a little bit darker right there. The sun is hitting your nose where it starts to protrude, so you just get more sun, and it's going to be more color. Of course, with women, we're going to wear more makeup. Of course, he's wearing makeup, right? But so I'll just let you guys see that again and just think about it. I know people are just so, they're just so serious about this, and it's such an emotional thing. I think that's why I was just kind of ticked off, because I could just see people just, I feel, and this is him, and it's just a very, very emotional thing for people. And it's just kind of, I think if you disagree, like, don't get into arguments with people about this, you know. I don't think I've even talked to people I live with about it, you know. Not that they would care, but it's almost like politics, you know, like the scandal to Gary type. I know with church historians, it was very much all their emails were like, the scandal, but they proved it. They just, a gastroenterologist and an ENT doctor and a cardiologist all like tried to learn to do photoanthropometry and tried to figure it out. But there are people that really know the subject that are going to speak out in appropriate ways. I don't know I have no idea what they would say or how they would handle specifically this one, but of course they're going to analyze it. But yeah, I don't know. I actually just don't know. But I did talk with some people that are smarter than me about what they think about that. I'll just say that. So his nose looks more like this guy, and he doesn't have a very large nose. But Ben Stiller definitely has a much bigger nose than the Locket photo man. So just things to look for when you're trying to understand how big someone's nose is. Your nose, especially men who aren't going to wear very much, if any, makeup in everyday life, they're probably not going to wear any unless they have acne, right? But your nose, it's going to have a different color. It's going to be shaded like right there. You're almost getting no sun. You just have to understand that. Here, even there, you're going to really see this a little bit deeper. He definitely, even when he has really good lighting, a little bit deeper frown line right there, just like the Locket photo. But if you look at other photos of him, the furrow in his brow is going to sort of, sometimes really bad lighting, you see there's a double furrow. It's just the human face. He probably got Botox that day. Younger pictures. Double furrow. This one's a little bit deeper though, just like the Locket photo, who he looks a lot like. But yeah, and just the whole age thing, I think much younger there, much younger. But even then, I think he's still older than Joseph Smith was when he died. And then you also have to count in, I mean, yeah, they did age a little bit faster, but they wore hats all the time. Like the story of Orson Pratt, I won't get into all those details, but it was just, they wrote down this detail. He was wandering outside without a hat. He's suicidal. Like they were really, like, he lost his mind. He has no hat on. It was really like, it was a protection. Like, you have to wear a hat, especially if it's summertime. Like, they didn't have sunscreen. And just what torture to get sunburned. And Joseph Smith writing this letter to Emma Smith, he was just like, I would, I miss you so much. Something about, I will walk all the way from here where he is in Liberty Jail to where she had gone to in Quincy, Illinois. He said he loved her and missed her so much. Like, if he could just get out of there and walk naked without even a hat. Just not even a hat. Not so much just that he would walk naked and travel that whole distance, but like, even if he didn't have a hat, like, it's just so funny, just that thing. They always wore a hat. It just was, studying church history, that was one thing I really, really was impressed with, in personal letters and just details of someone who really was severely upset and depressed, did not have a hat on. It just really was, it's just so important to wear a hat when you're outside. It was just, you are nuts if you are not wearing a hat. So it did sort of protect some sun. So you would think, like, back then, again, like Brigham Young, he's like 49. Okay, here. He's probably about 49. Joseph Smith was 38. And he did do farm work for a long time, but then he was being protected by guards and being, he did do some farming right before he died, too. So I think he did have some premature aging, but at the same time, he was inside a lot the last years of his life. So, don't know, but they always wore hats. So as far as the aging, they did, but you would probably see it more that part of the face, and yeah. So yeah, sorry, I really, really am completely unconvinced that this is Joseph Smith, and he has just a really strong jawline, and I think it'd be really good to go ahead and check out, even though this guy apparently, I almost said anything, but Shannon Tracy did an interview really recently. I just search and look at different channels. There's a channel that I'm not going to promote, but they don't like to let me leave comments, just say that. But Shannon Michael Tracy, like, it's harmless, they'll just delete it. I just don't like it. But Shannon Tracy was interviewed. I recommend checking that out, because that was really good. So even though In Search of Joseph is not in print, he's like all excited and wants to like redo what he did with that book, and I would be so happy if I found that I had any influence in that, because he just feels really confident about that study, and I think there was nothing wrong with that study. I think it's just horrible that he was sued, but again, I don't know what paperwork he signed. That's the thing, if you people will get you with what they throw in paperwork. I'm about 99% sure about that's what happened with him. So that was just too bad, but I wasn't there for the trial. I don't know what the rules were and what he broke, because he wasn't sued for In Search of Joseph, but he was sued for Millions Shall Know Brother Joseph Again over the scandal daguerreotype, but he used almost all the same photos, just not the scandal one, that first book, so I don't really know. But yeah, it was neat to see him excited. We aren't friends. I don't, he probably doesn't care about my photo, but it doesn't matter. But he sounds like he's pretty motivated, and he has a really good quote in there. If you go to it's around 49 minutes, so I'd go 48 minutes into this slideshow that he's giving with this guy that's like, I don't know, and he gives a really good, I need to find the source, I think it is In Search of Joseph, I'm just gonna look for it again, but when they moved Joseph Smith's body from the Nauvoo mansion to where he is laid, and then they disinterred him again, but in 1928. But when Emma was alive, and she had people carrying him into this cellar, I guess. I didn't realize that they buried him in there. They were not totally decomposed, so I guess their flesh was still there, their hair was still there, and Emma cut some of Joseph Smith's hair, and they said when they saw Hiram's face, it was collapsed in. Okay, so the skull that has no facial bones is Hiram's, because they witnessed and saw that Hiram's face was collapsed in. This was really good. About 48 minutes into this interview with, let's just look up Shannon. Sometimes it's Michael Tracy, sometimes it's Shannon Tracy. Other people can do the same thing with their middle names, so you can just go here, just click through these really annoying commercials. Yeah. And he's doing like this whole slideshow. He's all excited and feeling confident. I think that's great, because that first book was just so well done. And he talks about how the 3D version didn't turn out that great, and I knew that wasn't his fault. Like, he didn't create that 3D version. But I might be able to explain more about why the skulls were decided, but I think he could have expounded more on that, but at the same time, it was not memorized by him, and so just maybe go to my website to read more of what these men actually said, which was Dr. Niles, but I've been reading it over and over. So he trips up on their names a little bit, but if you read the book, he's not claiming that he studied the skulls. I just still like, why Curtis is just accusing him of doing the study, and he studied it, and he doesn't know anatomy, and I'm like, oh, whoa. Dr. Van de Graaff wrote books on anatomy? I'd hold your horses there before you start saying that, because it really was a good analysis. It was, and then they start talking about the measurements in the book of the skulls and why they did not use them, and there were good reasons. And then talking to people smarter than me, there were good reasons, and especially when you have a phrenology measurement of only Joseph's head, it's just, Hiram's face was smashed in. It had collapsed. So you can just it's about at this point. Go to like 48 minutes, you can hear that. I'm going to find that source, and then it's going to be on my website tomorrow. Because I was like, I heard that. Why didn't I think that was super, and why isn't it on my website? I don't know. So I'm going to go search that, find the exact source, and put the source on there, all the sources, whatever. But you can at least hear it here. They misidentified the skulls in 1928, and one became the Seventh Doctor after it was published, but in Millions there was a guy that was in the field of archaeology or anthropology, but he got his PhD later on. That also, so it's 6-7 doctors that before Curtis Weaver had concluded the skulls were mixed up. And then, of course, if all these witnesses of the decaying bodies are seeing that Hiram's face has totally collapsed, like just the facial bones have collapsed in, his skull is the one with no facial bones. The end. Anyway, have a good day.